Alright, so we're going to be making a balloon boat. The main idea of this task is to get you used to making things in Inventor from your own, so not looking at any sizes really, just got some basic building blocks or restrictions. In this case our restriction is that it needs to be 3D printed. Some of the things you need to consider when you're 3D printing is if you've got overhangs like this. 3D printers normally struggle with big overhangs or gaps like this if they're too big, but as long as you keep them within a reasonable size and it's not like a 90-degree overhang, or not 90 degrees, but something like a 60-degree overhang, it can't really handle that, or big stretches where you don't have anything underneath. You can normally do sizes that are about this, so this is about 7mm. It copes well with that. Other than that, you need some supports in there, which we're going to talk about later. So I'm going to be making a balloon boat similar to this. I'll give you some rough sizes, but the idea for this video is for maybe to follow along but then change the sizes later, or to watch the full video and then just come back to it when you need to maybe learn how to do a specific part, but you should really be coming up with a design yourself. This is a very basic design. You can add lots of other things on it. One of the things you might want to be adding is a wee space somewhere for you to put some sort of weight so that the boat is lower down in the water, so that it can actually, the air will actually come out and push the boat forward through the water rather than just blowing air out into thin air. So we're going to start just like we do with anything else that we make in Inventor. So I'm going to new, going to standard.mm.ipt, of course going to metric. Sometimes when you open it up it'll be in templates. If you click that one, so standard.ipt, that will just come up in inches. So you want metric and standard.mm.ipt. So I'm going to start with 2D sketch and put in my rough size for the boat so that it can be 3D printed. So anything less than these sizes, you'll be alright. So I'm going for the rectangle tool, and just like we did before, the 2-point center rectangle tool, and draw the rectangle. If you're wondering what I'm saying about before, I'm referencing the previous videos where we made a dice. So a lot of the things that we're doing today we've already done in the dice, so it should be straightforward. So I'm going to dimension this. I know my overall size, so this sort of rectangle and my hull of the boat needs to be less than 130. So I'm going to just put an 80 for this size, and about 60 works well for the width. If you want to make it wider so it's more stable, you might just have to make it a wee bit shorter, but nothing too wide or extreme. 60 seems to work. I'm then going to put in the hull of the boat just with the line tool. Since that we done the 2-point center rectangle, I can just click right onto anywhere in this on this line, and it'll be right in the center so that my triangle will be correct. I'm just going to click, and I'm going to dimension this. When you're doing angles or triangles, there's a few things that you can dimension. So I can dimension this radius, or this angle, sorry. But that's not really what I want to do, because I can't really change that much without changing the entire triangle later on. So I want to just do the actual length of this. So if I just click the point of that triangle and then the part of your rectangle that you've got, I'm going to make this add up to about 130, so about 50, and I'm quite happy with that. Finish my sketch and extrude. Nothing too complex, we've done this before, and we've got a rough shape that will fit in the 3D printer. If later on you want to change any of them, we know extrude 1 is what we were just using, and you want to do the sketch 1 and that, and you just double click it and then it takes you back to this sketch. And if you change anything, so if I made this 70, finish my sketch, it updates the full thing, but I don't really want to do that. So now we're going to put in one of the most important parts for this design, to make sure the actual boat works. I'm going to be putting in the exhaust system. So like we've done before, start 2D sketch, and on the top surface I've just clicked. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the first circle. I'm going to do 2 circles so that we can get the balloon to actually grip onto the part. So I'm just going to draw a circle on the line and click, And what I found was for the balloon that I was using, 20 seemed to work, but since we want to make a little lip, I'm going to maybe just do 17. And I'm going to make sure that this is dimensioned in place so that we can change this later. So this is exactly in the center, so our length or width was 60, so halfway is 30, so I'm happy with that. And then I want to place in where this is going to go. I'm going to just put it in as 50, and I'll show you how if we change this size later on, the full thing can change. So no matter what else we do, if we change this size, then the rest of the boat can change as well. So finish sketch, extrude, click. Don't quite want 10, 20, I'm going to go 10 for now. And I'm going to make this, as I said before, 20 seemed to work well. 20. Finish my sketch. Extrude. I'm going to just make this 4. You can do any size you want, whatever looks the best or you think will work better than that, go for it. Change that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a square in here. So it's giving me all crosshairs, and what I can do is do the 2-point center rectangle and draw a rectangle like this. So like with what we've been doing with the circles, where I've just been typing in rather than dimensioning, since we've put this in an exact spot, it's going to stay in here. And what I can do is I can dimension this inside me drawing the square. So if you don't want to do this, just click and then dimension it afterwards, but I'm going to just show you how to dimension it. So I'm going to click 7, and then I'm going to click the tab key, which is normally next to Q on your keyboard, and then that moves it over to the other side. I'm going to make this 7 as well, and that's a 7 by 7 square. I'm going to finish my sketch, I'm going to extrude it, and I'm going to go to cut. So when we're doing a cut, we normally can't see inside the object. It didn't matter for the dice for us to see inside the object, but what Inventor does is it gives you this red rectangle that you can see. And rather than doing any sizes, I'm just going to drag this down to a size that I like the look of. I want the exhaust to come out the bottom. If I had it up here, then it would just blow out into air. I'm going to just bring this down towards the bottom, and I'm going to click. I'm going to just put in a size that is about 31. I'm going to just do 30, just so if I do want to change it later on, I can, rather than playing about with dragging it. That will mean I've got that right in place. And if you want to continue seeing that shape that you've done, if it's something really complex that you're doing, you can go to View, and before we were doing Realistic View, but you can actually do a wireframe with hidden edges, and you can actually see the shape that you've got in here. So we want the output of this exhaust now. I'm going to start a 2D sketch, I'm going to draw a rectangle here, and we've got this shape here that we can use. So if I go to Project Geometry, and then click this shape, it then projects, it then projects that onto our sketch that we're doing. We're working on this shape, and I've clicked Project Geometry for these shapes, and it draws it onto here for us to use. And then I'm just going to draw a rectangle. Don't want a 2-point center rectangle this time, just a regular one. Make sure it snaps to the edge. I've made this a little bit thinner. I'm going to maybe make this 4, and finish sketch, and I'm going to extrude. So we're doing a cut, and what you could do is you could line it up to make sure that it reaches all the way to the exhaust. But if I'm wanting to change this later on, I want to do it so it all links up together, and so Inventor knows that if I move this part back the way, it wants to move this part back the way as well. So in Inventor you can go to a few different options and extrude. So I could extrude cut to a certain distance, or between, or to next. That's what I'm going to do. So that does it to the next part that it can see. If I had a part before it, a hole in before it would go to that one. So if you did want to do it to a certain place, you can do to, and then you can select an object, but to next works for me. So I'm going to click OK, and you can very vaguely see the wireframe going all the way through it. You might be able to change it to something else. That's a bit better. There we go. So I can actually see the shape that I've just created, and I'm quite happy with that. So this is a basic balloon boat design that will work perfectly fine, but the idea of this task is for you to create a design of your own that you think will work best. So if you think this exhaust system was going to work best at the front because the air is going to go all the way through it, or if you think it's going to work better at the back because then the weight of the balloons may be on top of the back and it'll push the back of the boat down, or if you think it's better in the middle, or whatever you've worked out to be the best, you can move this around. So at the start of the design you could have just drawn this circle at the back or the front, but I'm going to show you how you can move that. So if I find the extrude, just by hovering over these extrudes, this extrude is where the circle is. So this first circle that I want to move. So all I did was hover over them until I found the one that I want. For me it's extrude 2. I'm going to then go to sketch 2, I'm going to just double click it, and then I'm going to double click this size of the position of the circle. So I want to change this to 25. And that will move that circle back. And then if you've done everything correct, the full thing should move back the way. I don't actually want that, I want it just in the middle. So I've just undone and then click the tick. So I'm going to go back to view, and now the rest of it is really up to you with the design of it. If the main thing you might want to be adding in is a little compartment or a place for you to put in some weights, so it could be coins or something, or if you want to put in like a Lego figure, there's different things you can do, but I'll just quickly show you how to make a rough compartment for you to place weights in. So I'm starting a 2D sketch on this, and then I'm going to go to project geometry, like what we did with the exhaust. I'm just clicking the overall shape of my boat, and then I'm going to offset. Remember, my tools might be a wee bit different to yours, so you might just be looking for the tool that looks like that. You might not have the word offset. And then I'm going to click the shape that I projected, and I'm going to make this 3, finish my sketch, go to extrude, cut, 2, and you can make a little sort of ridge around the edge of your boat. Like what we've done with the dice, we put a fillet around the full thing, you can do that as well, make it 6. What I want to do instead is I want to do a chamfer, just on the edges, not the back. Maybe do a bit more than that, can always change it later. And I'm quite happy with that. You can get creative with whatever you want to put on the top. If you want to make it, put some sort of windshield on it or whatever you want, you can do what you want. You can go ahead and do that. So this video is mainly going over a lot of the tools that you've used already, but it also goes over some extra tools and little things that will help you whenever you're creating things in Inventor. The main thing I want you to remember is using the modeling tree is really good if you want to go back and change anything on your design. So if I was to print this out and I decided that this exhaust was maybe too big, it was letting out the air too quick, I can come back and change all these sizes, and if I changed one, I would update the rest of them. So if I made this a wee bit smaller, since we projected the geometry, this would actually become smaller. If I wanted to move this to the back or the front, I could do that. And if you're confused about some of the other tools that I've been using, or maybe I was going a wee bit quicker this time, maybe going back and looking at the dice videos will help you with some of that. Okay, so if you have any questions, please make sure you ask. Or if you start making your boat and you want to come back to this video for any of the parts, you can check the description and there is some time codes for each thing. So I'm going to have a time code for using the modeling tree, a time code for making the exhaust system, and a time code for the overall sizes of making the boat. But get creative with this, you don't have to copy this design. This was just going through my process of how I make things in Inventor. Thanks for watching.